Alright, so I'm down here, and what I can only imagine is the business district. You got all these tall buildings. Kind of reminds me of Marunouchi and around Tokyo Station. But this right here is what I wanted to go see. If I'm able to, I can see there's maybe some police barricades or something set up over here, so it might be closed actually. But this right here is the National Monument. It was a surprise to me to find out that Indonesia actually isn't that old of a country. It's only like 76 years old. That's crazy. A nation that has the fourth most people in the world is only 76 years old. Well, I'm sure most of you already knew this, but I didn't. For 350 years, it was colonized by the Dutch. The Netherlands. They came over here, called dibs on it for 350 years. That's crazy. You know, it's a pretty sad story when you look into it though. They came over here and basically used the people as slaves, cheap labor, took all their resources, their nutmeg, their spices, their pepper, their gold, their silver, and sold it back to their homeland without investing any of that money into the lands, into the Dutch East Indies is what they used to call it. And well, yeah, let's see if I can get in, and I'll continue with this little journey, this little story. I don't know if I can though. Tutu, buka. All right. It's closed. That's okay though, that's okay. I just wanted to come get a look at it. This was built in like 1964, I believe, by the first president, Sukarno. Our petit?
5,000.
5,000?
Water.
Okay, that sounds like a good deal to me.
One about? One, two.
One, please.
One. Okay.
Hanya satu.
Oke. Bisa bahasa Indonesia ya? Udah berapa tahun?
Good luck. Let's see here. No small. Kecil. Tidak kecil.
Itu nggak apa-apa.
Kecil, tidak kecil.
Oh, kota sana ya.
It's okay? 4,000?
Oke, nggak apa-apa, 4.000 pengaris.
Ya, kecil. Hanya ini. Hanya ini.
Oke, ambil. Thank you ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so like I was saying, Sukarno, the first president, he declared independence in 1945, right after the Japanese were defeated in World War II. You see, for some 350 years, the Dutch basically called dibs on this land. They colonized it, and in 1942, for 3 years, the Japanese defeated the Dutch and got rid of all the Europeans, got rid of all the Dutch. They were either killed, they either fled home, or they were POWs. They became prisoners of war. And well, the Japanese, they came in and at first tried to present themselves as liberators. They were like, hey, look, we don't like the Westerners, we don't like the Europeans. Let's work together, let's do this. And at first, the Indonesians, they bought into this. They thought, hey, if another Asian power can defeat the Dutch, the Europeans, then maybe we can too. And so about 15 or 20 years ago, before that, an independence movement started to brew from Sukarno. And he was actually one of the few Indonesians that got an education, that was able to go to school. I read something like only 1,000 Indonesians graduated from universities by the year 1940. So I'm like going into no man's land over here. There's a bunch of barbed wire over here. And so maybe I should turn back around. That's pretty cool. This little horse-drawn carriage looking thing over here. This guy's got a big old bow and arrow. Wow, I wonder who that is. let's see if we can go get a better look at that. And so, yeah, right now they have a lot of barricades up. They're trying to keep people from traveling too far. And so this is one of them roads, I guess, that is closed. But let's see if we can get across before this bus. And so, yeah, when the Japanese came over here, they presented themselves as liberators. And like I said, at first, the Indonesians, they welcomed it. They thought, hey, they're on our side. But in reality, the Japanese, all they wanted to do was use the people that lived here. They wanted to extract all their resources. There was no way in hell that Japan would ever recognize the people here as equals. Not gonna happen. And so when the first independence movement was born in like the late 1920s, the Dutch put a stop to that very quickly. But when the Japanese came in, it brought new life into that movement. You see, whenever the Dutch were defeated, Sukarno and everybody, they were let free, and they were even given some of the administrative duties and tasks to help run the country. And so that only gave them more confidence that hey, we can take care of ourselves. We don't need any of any other outsiders telling us what to do. Man, it's beautiful out here, isn't it? It's cool. It is cool. And so, well, eventually the Indonesians, couldn't even call them Indonesians at this point. See, the reason the Dutch was able to take over and to colonize the Dutch East Indies was there was no unified country at this point in the 1500s, 1600s. There was no one identity. These islands make up like 17,000 islands, countless different tribes, different languages, and so there was no one identity here. And so it was easy for them to come in and conquer them because, you know, they couldn't stand a chance. And so basically a lot of the tribes and territories were forced to sign unfair treaties, and so it was Sukarno who finally formed a nationalist view. And so when I was doing my research, it kind of hit me. You see, if it weren't for the Japanese defeating the Dutch, you might not have any of this. You might not have an independent Indonesia. Why do I say that? Yes, the Japanese just came in here and colonized and did the same thing, killed hundreds of thousands of Indonesians. But what it did do is when the Japanese came in, they trained a lot of the Indonesians to fight in the war. So for the first time, you had thousands of Indonesians being trained as soldiers. And so when the Japanese were defeated, Sukarno had about 120,000 Japanese trained soldiers that he could use. And by this point, the movement had already spread throughout the country, or throughout Java and the big cities. And even though in 1945, after Sukarno declared the independence, of course, the Dutch come back to claim what they think is their land, their property. You know, they've been here for 350 years. Yeah, the Japanese came, but they're like, hey, we're coming back to claim what is rightfully ours. And there was a bloody 4-year war that took place. Hundreds of thousands of Indonesians died. There's what's called the Permuda, the young gangs that, yeah, they they only believed in Sukarno, but they didn't really have a leader. Their one thing was, we want freedom, and we're gonna get it no matter what. We're gonna fight fight till the death. And so the Dutch came back and tried to reclaim everything. Long story short, it didn't work out. And Indonesia, in 1949, signed a treaty with the Dutch and gained their sovereignty. How'd that do? That was a pretty good story, right? I mean, I was kind of all over the place for a while, but I think I got there. If I missed anything in my little story there, please let me know. I'm sure I left out some huge gaps in there. But mainly, yeah, the Indonesian War of Independence was brutal. It was nasty. And so, in the end, Sukarno and Hatta became president and vice president, and now you have the country of Indonesia that you have today. So it was really interesting learning about all that. Let's go this way.